America, a land of progress, power and promise. A nation built on steel and dreams. But hidden beneath the bright lights of cities and highways, lies a darkness so deep that even the government refuses to speak of it. Tonight, we reopen a case that shook the United States to its core, a crime so impossible, so unbelievable, that people still question if it was human or something beyond. Imagine a peaceful town. No danger, no violence, a place where people sleep with unlocked doors. And then, one night, an entire family disappears without noise, without struggle, without even footsteps. Gone. Erased from existence. No bodies. No witnesses. No explanation. The only thing left behind was a symbol. A circle. 3 vertical lines. Burned into the wall like a warning. Law enforcement failed. FBI struggled. Scientists couldn't understand. And the media was ordered to stay silent. Because what happened here didn't just break the law, it broke logic, time, and belief. This is not just a crime. This is a message. A secret America tried to bury. Tonight, you will hear everything: the evidence, the tapes, the missing children, the organization behind the abductions, and the truth that was never meant for the public. Welcome to the case known as the Brookhollow disappearance. Listen closely, because by the end, you won't sleep with your lights off again. Brookhollow, a small quiet town in the United States. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where nights are peaceful and days flow like water. November 15th, a date now carved into American crime history forever. At 2:13 a.m., the police received a call so strange, so shaken, that even the operator froze. A family is gone, the whole family. Please, send someone. When Officer Miller arrived at the Hutchinson farmhouse, nothing prepared him for what he saw. The door was broken from the inside. Furniture overturned, dishes shattered, deep scratch marks across the walls, but not a drop of blood. It looked like chaos, but there were no footprints leading out. No signs of struggle. No forced escape. Inside the living room, carved into the wallpaper, was the symbol that would haunt investigators for years, a perfect circle with 3 straight lines drawn through it. Fresh. Deep. Sharp. As if carved moments before the officer arrived. Then the camera was found, cracked, but still recording. Footage showed the family at 2:11 a.m. The father reading, the mother cleaning, kids laughing. At 2:12, glitch. Static. Darkness. And when the footage returned, the family was gone. Vanished inside 60 seconds. No noise. No breaking windows. No exit door. As if the room inhaled, and swallowed 4 lives whole. This is how the nightmare began. Normally, missing persons in small towns do not trigger federal involvement. But the symbol changed everything. Within 24 hours, top-level agents were flown to Brookhollow, led by one of the sharpest minds in American investigation, Agent Sarah Keaton. A woman known for solving cold cases no one dared to touch. When she saw the footage, she didn't blink. When she saw the symbol, she didn't flinch. But when she learned that no doors were opened, no windows broken, and no bodies left behind, even she felt her pulse slow. The symbol was sent for analysis. Hours later, a match came back, and it shocked the entire agency. Similar disappearances had taken place before. 1988, 1992. 2001, 2014. Different states. Different families. But the same circle. The same 3 lines. The same story, gone without trace. Sarah realized immediately, this was not a first-time crime. This was part of a cycle. She ordered the case to be reopened nationwide. Files once buried were now pulled from archives like ghosts rising from graves. The FBI needed answers, and every clue pointed to something more organized, more intelligent, more prepared. Not random. Not accidental. A pattern, operating for decades. Agent Keaton made a promise no one forgot. I will find who took them. Dead or alive. When Sarah returned to the farmhouse, she didn't rush. She studied. She absorbed. And she found 3 disturbing details the earlier team had missed. First, the absence of footprints. Floors dusty, untouched, like no one ever walked out. Second, the children's room was almost perfectly clean. Emily's teddy lay on the floor, but beds were made, books stacked, a little too perfect, as if something deliberately avoided disturbing the space. Then the third discovery. In the basement, behind a wooden board, was a hidden panel. Inside that, an old tape recorder labeled "Play Me Last." The tape clicked. Static filled the room. Then, trembling voice, the father, Thomas Hutchinson. They came for her, they said Emily is chosen. I don't know how long we have. If this tape is found, we are already gone. Sarah's heart froze. This wasn't a random attack. This family knew. They were waiting for something. The man continued, whisper cracking like dead branches. They took her once. Brought her back. They said they would return tonight. Circle must complete. If anyone hears this, leave. Don't follow. The tape ended abruptly. Sarah exhaled slowly. The family had been watched for weeks. Emily, the youngest, was the target. And whatever took her, came back. The mysterious number Sarah found inside the father's phone bill was not just strange, it was invisible. It had no listed owner, no address, no digital footprint anywhere inside national telecom databases. It was like calling a ghost. But the caller ID left something behind, one name. Nightfall Foundation. A foundation that didn't legally exist. No website, no registration, no offices. A name that appeared in nothing, except the darkest corners of unsolved files. Sarah dialed the number. 1 ring, silence. 2 rings, static. On the 3rd ring, the line connected, but Sarah never spoke her name. Yet the voice on the other side already knew. Agent Keaton, you are trespassing into restricted territory. Her spine stiffened. How do you know who I am? No answer. Just slow breathing, mechanical, almost non-human. We warned the family. The cycle cannot be broken. Turn back, or you will join them. Then, click. The line went dead. Sarah stared at the phone. Goosebumps rising across her arms. Not because she was threatened, but because whoever spoke knew her position, her identity, her involvement. Someone was watching the investigation in real time. She rushed to FBI headquarters, demanding access to classified archives. At first she was denied, then the file slipped through under the table like contraband. Inside it was the truth. Nightfall Foundation was linked to multiple disappearances across 30 years. Families erased. Children missing. No remains ever found. Every scene marked with the same symbol, the circle and 3 lines. The file ended with one chilling line written by an unknown analyst. Nightfall does not kill. They collect. Sarah understood now, Hutchinson family wasn't kidnapped for ransom. They were taken for purpose. But what purpose? Her next move would uncover something America was never meant to know. No crime can occur without a shadow, and Sarah knew, someone, somewhere, had seen something. Brookhollow was small, secrets could hide, but whispers could not. She sent agents door to door, questioning locals one by one, until patterns emerged like cracks in glass. 3 witnesses stood out, different ages, different places, yet their words aligned like puzzle pieces. The first was Kent Dawson, a 72-year-old farmer who lived less than a mile from the Hutchinson property. His voice trembled as he spoke, eyes fixed beyond memory. "I was feeding the horses around midnight. At first I thought lightning was coming, blue flashes, quiet but bright. Not from the sky, from above the house." He paused. Like something was hovering, watching. Next was Maria Lopez, only 17, returning late from a friend's house. She claimed she heard a scream near the tree line, high, sharp, painful, then saw something she still refused to call human. It was tall, too tall. No face I could see. It just stood there in the dark. Like it was waiting for something. Her hands shook as she signed the report. But the third witness gave the most critical piece. The gas station owner, Eddie Barnes, checked his cameras after hearing police sirens and found footage at 1:45 a.m., a white van passing slowly, headlights off, license plates missing. He remembered it clearly. The driver wore a black mask. But what scared me wasn't him, it was what I saw in the back window. He leaned forward, whispering. Eyes. White, glowing, like they weren't real. Sarah froze. 3 witnesses. Same timeline. Same direction. Whatever happened that night wasn't a robbery, wasn't random, wasn't human chaos. It was coordinated. Planned. Executed with precision. Something came for the Hutchinsons, and 3 people watched from the edge of fear. Information leads forward, but answers often lie in the past. With Nightfall Foundation's name echoing in her mind, Sarah dug deeper into federal archives, bypassing layers of locked records. Dust, mold, corrupted data, all signs of files untouched for decades. When she finally found what she needed, she stopped breathing for a moment. Brookhollow had seen this before. Year, 1988. Case title, Brookhollow Missing Persons, Classified. 5 families vanished that year. Same pattern. Doors broken from the inside, no footprints, children targeted, and one final trace at each scene, a circle with 3 vertical lines. Back then, authorities labeled it possible cult activity. But no arrests were made, no bodies recovered. The case went cold not because they failed, but because someone forced it closed. The final page of the report sent a chill through Sarah's bones. 1988, 3 disappearances required. But only 2 were completed. The cycle remained open. Which meant 2023 wasn't a beginning, it was a continuation. There were photographs too, blurred white vans, tall figures near trees, blue lights captured faintly on old film. Handwritten notes in margins. Children selected. Not killed, taken. Pattern repeats every 29 to 30 years. Sarah sat quietly, the truth wrapping around her like ice. This wasn't one case. It was a ritual timeline. 1988, 2 families lost. 2023, Hutchinson family gone. If the cycle demanded 3, then someone. Somewhere, was next. But why children? Why this bloodline? Why this town? That answer waited further down the rabbit hole. Sarah closed the file, determination hardening in her chest. The crime wasn't unsolved because it was confusing. It was unsolved because someone did not want it solved. The real hunt had only just begun. Sarah returned to the Hutchinson farmhouse with new eyes. She wasn't searching for clues anymore, she was searching for hiding places. And the house, silent and cold like a museum of tragedy, had more to reveal. She retraced every step again, the living room, the bedrooms, the kitchen. Then her attention locked back onto the basement. Something had bothered her since the first day, the air downstairs felt too cold, too still, like it was holding its breath. She examined the floor carefully. Dust marks. Uneven boards. One wooden tile slightly lighter than the rest. With a crowbar, she pried it open, and the floor groaned like it was warning her. Underneath was a hidden chamber, no bigger than a closet. Inside, a single tape recorder, covered in fingerprints, marked in shaking handwriting. "Play me last." But Sarah didn't wait. She pressed play. Static. Whispers. Then the trembling voice of Thomas Hutchinson, the missing father. "If this recording is heard, they came back. Emily was taken once before. They returned her. They said she was chosen. They said the circle must complete." Sarah froze. Emily wasn't kidnapped for the first time, this was the second. Thomas continued, voice breaking. "The blue lights, the whispers through the walls, the tall men without faces, they watch at night. They wait. And tonight will be the end. They told me 3 sacrifices are needed. We are the second." The tape cut off with a scream so faint and distant that it sounded inhuman. Not pain, but fear. Sarah stood still for a full minute. This wasn't an attack. It was a ritual collection. And if the Hutchinsons were the second sacrifice, the third family was already marked. She needed to find them, fast. The wind outside the farmhouse howled like something alive, as if the town itself feared what Sarah now knew. There was no more time for theory, no room for hesitation. If Nightfall Foundation needed 3 families, and 2 had already been taken, then somewhere in Brookhollow, a final family was living their last normal day, unaware that death, or something worse, was coming for them. Sarah spread old photographs, maps, timelines across the kitchen table, tracing patterns like a surgeon cutting through truth. Victim profile in 1988, families with children aged 7 to 12. Same in 1992, 2001, 2014. And now 2023. She cross-checked birth records, school rosters, census data. Then she found it. A name circled with chilling clarity. The Andersons. A family of 5. Youngest daughter, Ava Anderson, age 9. Same age as Emily Hutchinson. Her throat tightened. Police officers were dispatched instantly, but when they reached the Anderson home, the scene was disturbingly familiar. Front door unlocked. Dinner plates cold. Television still playing quietly. No bodies. No signs of escape or struggle. Only one thing remained. Burned into the living room wall, fresh and smoking. The third circle. Complete. Sarah staggered back, the ground seeming to shift beneath her. The timeline was closed. The cycle fulfilled. Nightfall Foundation had taken all 3 families, and they had done it without leaving a single trace for the world to see. But on the kitchen table, Sarah noticed something the others missed, a small note taped beneath a child's drawing. A message written in a shaking, rushing hand. "If they take us, find Redwood. Basement. Room with no door." Her pulse thundered. Redwood was not a town, not a person. It was an abandoned psychiatric hospital deep in the forest, shut down 20 years ago. That was where Nightfall went. That was where the children were taken. And Sarah Keaton was going there next, alone. The road to Redwood was a graveyard of forgotten history, cracked pavements swallowed by roots, trees leaning inward like guardians of a secret best left buried. Sarah drove alone through fog thick enough to erase reality, the headlights cutting only a small doorway through the darkness. Every mile felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. As if the forest knew she was coming. Finally, Redwood appeared, enormous, broken, towering like a corpse of concrete. Old windows shattered, walls stained by rain and time, iron gates rusted shut but easy to slip through. The asylum hadn't been touched in decades, yet the electricity inside flickered like someone was home. Sarah gripped her flashlight. Her gun. Her resolve. Inside, the hallways smelled of mold and metal. Wheelchairs lay overturned, medical papers scattered across the floor, but no dust covered them. Someone had moved through recently. The silence was so loud it felt like sound was waiting for permission to exist. Then she saw it. The symbol. Carved deep into the hallway wall. A circle. 3 vertical lines. Painted fresh, still dripping. Her pulse hammered like footsteps. She moved deeper, counting rooms, reading faded signs, Psych Ward A. Ward B. Intensive treatment. Then she reached a steel door labeled Basement Access Restricted. The note from the Anderson home echoed in her mind. Redwood. Basement. Room with no door. With one hard pull, the door groaned open. Darkness swallowed everything. Step by step, she descended. The temperature dropped. Shadows moved where nothing lived. And then she saw it. At the end of the corridor, a wall covered in scratch marks. But when she pressed her hand against it, the concrete pushed inward like skin. A hidden passage. A door that wasn't a door. The Nightfall Foundation didn't want to be found. And Sarah had just crossed the line no one returned from. The passage was narrow, damp, and smelled of iron and decay. Every step echoed, yet Sarah felt an unnatural silence pressing from all sides. The walls themselves seemed to hum, a low, vibrating pulse like the heartbeat of some monstrous organism. She raised her flashlight and gun, but the beam barely penetrated the darkness. At the end of the corridor, the wall curved unnaturally. There were no handles, no hinges, no seams, yet she knew the room was behind it. The scratch marks told her so. Whoever or whatever was inside had left a trail. Sarah pressed her palm against the concrete. Cold. Solid. Immovable. Her fingers traced an invisible pattern, instinct guiding her, until a faint click reverberated through the silence. The wall shifted slightly, like breathing. With a deep breath, she pushed. The wall gave way. Inside was a chamber the size of a small gym. Blue light pulsed from strange cylindrical containers lining the walls. The air was thick, sterilized yet metallic. Each container held a child, all asleep, suspended in some unknown fluid, pale and perfectly still. And in the center, a girl she immediately recognized, Emily Hutchinson. Alive, but hooked to machines she didn't understand. Her eyes opened slowly, wide and terrified. Sarah knelt beside her. "You're safe." "I'm here," she whispered. A monitor flickered, displaying a countdown, 12 o'clock hours remaining. From the shadows, a faint mechanical hum emerged. Figures moved, sleek, silent, humanoid but not quite human. Collectors. Engineered to retrieve their targets. And now, Sarah realized the truth. Nightfall Foundation's work was not murder, it was harvest. Emily was not the victim of a random abduction. She was the prize. The culmination of decades-long experiments. Sarah's voice hardened. They took you once. They won't get you again. But the figures were already moving toward them. And this room, the room with no door, was about to become a battlefield. Emily's eyes widened as the figures approached. Their movements were unnaturally precise, step by step, synchronized, silent. Sarah grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a row of containers. The blue light reflected off metallic surfaces, casting grotesque shadows that seemed almost alive. "They're not human," Sarah whispered, steadying her own racing heartbeat. "But they're predictable. Follow my lead." Emily nodded, trembling. Together, they moved carefully through the maze of containers. The metallic hum grew louder, more insistent. Every breath they took echoed unnaturally in the chamber, like a countdown. A control panel loomed ahead, wires dangling, sparks flickering. Sarah ripped open the panel, exposing the circuitry beneath. She scanned it quickly. If I can short this, she muttered, we can disable them long enough to escape. Emily's hand trembled in hers. They'll come back, won't they? She asked. Yes, Sarah said. But we survive tonight, we fight tomorrow. Her fingers worked quickly, severing key wires and triggering a chain reaction. Lights flickered violently. The pulsing blue glow died down. One of the collectors froze mid-step, then collapsed with a mechanical whine. The others faltered, confusion rippling through them like a virus. Go! Sarah shouted. They ran toward the hidden passage, the figures malfunctioning behind them. Concrete walls pressed in, the air thick with electricity and fear. At the corridor's exit, a faint glimmer of moonlight broke through a crack in the wall. Emily's small legs moved faster than expected, driven by terror and instinct. Sarah followed, pushing them both into the forest outside Redwood. They didn't stop running until the asylum's looming shadow was far behind. Finally, Emily collapsed on the ground, chest heaving, eyes wide. Sarah knelt beside her. We made it, for now. But the forest around them was not empty. A faint, blue pulse lingered on the horizon, the collectors were resetting. Night. Sarah and Emily didn't pause for more than a second. The forest around Redwood was dense, twisted, and eerily quiet, almost as if it were holding its breath. Yet, every so often, a faint blue light flickered between the trees. The collectors had not lost them. They were recalibrating, silent, relentless, and still in pursuit. Emily stumbled over roots and fallen branches, her small frame struggling to keep up. Sarah supported her, whispering calm words she barely believed herself. Stay close. Don't stop. Keep moving. Then, they heard it, a low hum, metallic, synchronized. The collectors were approaching faster than human endurance would allow. Sarah realized these weren't ordinary humans, these were engineered hunters, built for one purpose, retrieve their target. And Emily was that target. They ducked behind a fallen tree. Emily's chest heaved, her eyes wide with terror. They're faster than us, she whispered. Yes, Sarah admitted. But they can't predict everything. They follow patterns. We disrupt the pattern, we get ahead. She studied the forest floor, spotting a narrow stream cutting through the trees. We use the water. It'll mask our scent, break their sensors. They plunged into the icy stream, splashing and moving silently. The collectors slowed, scanning, confusion rippling through their mechanical precision. For the first time, Sarah felt a small spark of hope. Hours passed in darkness. The forest seemed endless. Every step could be their last. But Sarah refused to let fear paralyze her. Finally, they reached a ridge overlooking a small clearing. Moonlight touched the ground. For the first time, Emily saw the horizon beyond the trees, safety, however temporary. Sarah knelt, catching her breath. We've bought time. But Nightfall Foundation, they won't stop until they have you back. Emily shivered, gripping Sarah's hand. Then we have to finish this, before they do. And in that moment, they both understood. The real battle was only baggy. The clearing was small, moonlight barely cutting through the thick canopy. Sarah and Emily crouched behind a cluster of rocks, listening. The metallic hum of the collectors grew louder, and now it was joined by a low, synthetic voice, repeating in a loop. They cannot escape. Target must be returned. Cycle must complete. Sarah's mind raced. She had seen enough to know this wasn't just about abduction. Nightfall Foundation treated their targets like living components in a machine. And Emily was the core. I have an idea, Sarah whispered, pulling a small device from her pocket, an EMP trigger she had prepared from the asylum's equipment. This will disable them temporarily, but we only get one shot. Emily's eyes widened. What do I do? Stay behind me. When I trigger it, run for the ridge. Don't stop. The collectors emerged from the shadows. Tall, faceless, inhuman. They moved with terrifying precision. Sarah pressed the device. A pulse of electromagnetic energy shot outward. Blue lights flickered, systems overloaded. Collectors froze mid-step, limbs jerking spasmodically. Go! Sarah shouted. She grabbed Emily's hand, sprinting toward the ridge. Sparks flew from the disabled units as the EMP wave cascaded through them. One collapsed into a tree, another into the stream, unmoving. They reached higher ground. Heart pounding, Sarah glanced back. The remaining collectors struggled to reboot, their mechanical bodies twitching like puppets with broken strings. Emily looked up at Sarah, tears in her eyes. We did it. For now, Sarah said, voice heavy with exhaustion. But Nightfall Foundation doesn't give up. They adapt. They evolve. And they'll be back. Moonlight bathed the ridge. In the distance, the asylum's shadow loomed, a reminder that their fight was far from over. Emily and Sarah shared a determined glance. This was not the end, it was a beginning. The sun had barely risen when Sarah returned with a full FBI tactical team. Redwood Asylum was no longer abandoned, it had become a battlefield. Every corridor was scoured, every room inspected. The blue glow from the night before was gone, replaced by the sterile cold of human control. What they found stunned even the most seasoned agents. Cylindrical containers stood empty. Machines powered down. Blood vials and DNA samples, meticulously labeled, were missing. Only remnants of the operation remained, scorch marks, broken equipment, and the lingering symbol carved repeatedly on walls. Sarah moved methodically, analyzing the site. Every scrap of evidence confirmed her worst fears. Nightfall Foundation had prepared for every contingency. The collectors were gone, destroyed or deactivated, but the architects of the operation had escaped. Whoever runs this, they planned for this, Sarah muttered to her team. They're not just hunters. They're manufacturers. They're scientists, strategists. And they're still out there. Emily, now under federal custody, remained quiet. She was exhausted, traumatized, but alive. Sarah knew the psychological scars would take years to heal. Yet she also knew Emily carried knowledge no one else possessed, knowledge that could be used to track Nightfall if they returned. Reports were filed, evidence logged, and the site was sealed. Classified documents labeled top secret. Biohazard Project Null were prepared, ensuring that only a few would know the full truth. Sarah's voice was grim as she left the asylum. This isn't over. They will come back. We only survived because we were prepared tonight. But Nightfall Foundation, they're patient. They wait decades if they must. The sun rose over Brookhollow, casting light on a town still unaware of the horrors that had unfolded beneath its soil. For now, the immediate threat was neutralized. But Sarah knew the Foundation never truly sleeps. The shadow of Nightfall stretched far beyond
Weeks passed since the Redwood raid. Brookhollow slowly returned to its quiet rhythm, but the town's residents were forever changed. Whispers of vanished families, strange symbols, and blue lights haunted conversations. Most dismissed it as urban legend, but those who had witnessed the events knew the truth, and feared it. Sarah returned to FBI headquarters, compiling reports, cross-referencing evidence, and debriefing agents. Emily was placed under protective custody, monitored continuously. Despite her ordeal, she was resilient, a symbol of survival. But Sarah knew that trauma like hers would leave indelible marks, scars that no therapy could erase entirely. Sarah's final report included a chilling warning. Nightfall Foundation operates in cycles, targeting families with precision and purpose. They do not kill for sport, but for collection and experimentation. They are patient, intelligent, and adaptive. Any attempt to confront them must be calculated, precise, and ready for escalation. The next cycle is inevitable. She walked through the quiet streets of Brookhollow one evening, Emily's safety ensured for the moment. A sense of vigilance settled over her. The foundation may be dormant, but it was not gone. The patterns from the past 3 decades suggested they would return, selecting new targets, continuing their ritual of disappearance and collection. In the shadows, hidden from view, Sarah spotted a faint blue glow on the horizon, a reminder that Nightfall Foundation's reach extended far beyond Brookhollow. She turned to leave, determined. The story was over for the town, but for those who hunted the truth, it was only beginning. Brookhollow had survived, but the world had witnessed only a fragment of the horror. And the warning remained clear. They wait. They watch. They always return.